Alright, we're back in Boomer Shooter territory, y'all! I'm kind of jazzed to be talking about this because I've always wanted to play it, but I've never got the chance to because of just generally being busy and not having a good opportunity to really sink my teeth into it. It was also $5 Canadian because of Steam's mid-week sale, and I had to strike while the iron was hot. I should also probably tell you what this game you're looking at is, shouldn't I? This is a medieval. It's basically what would happen if Quake and Heretic got married, had a kid, and proceeded to spike all that kid's food with the liquid LSD. It was developed by Indefatigable Inc. and published by New Blood Interactive, who put out another game I talked about on this channel that I could not shut up about, Dusk. By the way, if you haven't already, go watch my Dusk video. It's really good, and it's got the David Zemansky seal of approval. Not really, but he liked my tweet about it, which is basically the same thing. Anyways, as someone who's never played Heretic, never finished but played a good amount of Quake, and has an appreciation for visuals that were inspired by particularly wild drug trips, this is a surprising matchup of things I didn't know I needed until I started playing it. Anywho, I'm Mahmoud Eden, and I'm here to tell you what's good about a medieval. A medieval begins with this epic fantasy text crawl a la Star Wars about how there's this great evil that's been rampaging across the cosmos, and after countless millennia, you've been chosen by the gods to purge the 7 realms of evil's influence, which is conveniently done by killing anything that isn't you, pulse optional. If I'm being honest, a medieval's narrative is more of an excuse to get you through 7 really distinct episodes for some good old-fashioned ye-olde rippeth and tear. I'm personally not opposed to this because the narrative isn't really the Boomer Shooter's focus. If I want some story to go with my shooting, I'll play either Half-Life or Destiny 2. But that's not to say that a medieval does away with story entirely. It uses the environments and literal writings on the wall of each level to have these short quotes that tell how each realm fell and possibly give hints on how to progress. While it's not the best use of environmental storytelling I've seen in a video game, it provides just enough context to keep you from forgetting why there's still evil to be purged. To stay in the realm of environmental storytelling for a quick second, the main thing that caught me off guard when going through the game was when I saw how it uses the aesthetic of each area and the more ambient music to set the tones of each world. The standout has to be the Forges of Episode 5, where the game goes for a darker, more oppressive atmosphere through the use of lighting, color, and ambient music. And I also have to add that this game takes what I said earlier about Dusk and uses low polygon models as less a technical restraint and more as a legitimate aesthetic style, and this mixed with the bright primary and secondary colors makes everything stand out as visually readable amidst the chaos of combat. I really like it. Speaking of combat, the medieval takes the arena shooter combat scene and its influences of Quake and Heretic, but mostly Quake, and amps it all the way up to 11. While combat does take place in wide, open levels a lot of the time, there are also instances where you're in cramped spaces like hallways that you can't openly circle strafe to avoid enemy attacks as easily. But the difference is that a medieval is thankfully a merciful foe, and only sends melee enemies after you in spots like this. Overall, combat is fast, frenetic, and you need to keep moving to keep yourself from getting killed. A medieval takes the phrase live fast or die hard to heart. But you're probably asking, how is this different from any other first-person shooter of this style? The game's response is, it's in the arsenal. A medieval has 7 incredibly potent magical weapons for you to choose from. Well, that's actually a lie. It's more like 6 incredibly potent magical weapons and an incredibly bitchin' battle axe for you to choose from. You start off the game with the Axe of the Black Labyrinth, your melee weapon that still manages to compete with the rest of the arsenal, but becomes more specialized due to the more projectile-heavy nature of combat. I'm thankful that there are no hit scanners because that'd be too much for me. Meant more for taking out melee enemies, it does so admirably in about 2 or 3 hits of most low to mid-tier melee enemies. The other weapons serve as magical weapons standing in for your FPS game arsenal. The Staff of the Azure Orbit's a surprisingly effective pistol, the Spectral Edge Sword and Star of Torment Mace are your regular and super shotguns, the Trident Volt Ride is basically your chain gun, the Celestial Claw serves as the rocket launcher, but replace the rocket launcher with the magic staff that shoots planets, and the wild-looking Eternum is your BFG equivalent that shoots out a ball of lightning that chains to all enemies in its vicinity to clear the area. They're all color-coded for your convenience as well. The Azure Orb and Volt Rite use blue mana, Spectral Edge, and Star of Torment use green mana, both of which are more readily available than the Celestial Claw's orange and the Eternum's purple. The former are your workhorse weapons, and the latter are your these things need to die quickly weapons. And the axe doesn't use mana because it's a regular old axe. And these tie into the soul mode for each weapon as well. To explain, when things die or if you take damage, you gain soul energy. When the meter is full, despite energy for health, you pop it for an alternate effect. These range from the mundane, like shoots more shots per orb or increased damage and fire rate, to the more wild stuff like shots bouncing, the trident becoming the lightning rifle from Quake and my personal favorites, the celestial claw shooting suns instead of planets, and the Eternum turning into a goddamn black hole launcher. To say that the arsenal is the star of the show is a bit of an understatement. You will need them against the bosses of each episode because, like the game's main combat, the bosses are fast, brutal, and will kill you dead. One last thing, the music is done by musical trash bin maestro Andrew Hulshult. He goes for a more ethereal and ambient vibe this time around, but provides some great combat music for when shit hits the fan. It's really good. Amid Evil is my second favorite kind of boomer shooter in that it takes the subject that it homages and makes a more modern version of it. It's fast and brutal at times, especially in the later parts of the game, but it still feels like a more accessible version of what it's paying tribute to. And as someone who's never played Heretic, I can kind of appreciate it. But if you're looking for a shooter that will get your blood pumping, I can think of no greater cause than taking up your axe in the name of slaying evil. And I think that's what's good about Amid Evil. And that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and if you have any feedback, leave it in the comments. Thank you for your time. I'm Mahmoud Adden, and I'll see you in the next video.